Hey everyone, welcome to the 13th episode of the Luminous Arts Podcast. Stephen Lieberman is a longtime friend and inspiration of mine. He's a lighting designer whose work is world-renowned in the festival stage and high-end nightclub arenas. I met Stephen back in the early 2000s when I was working with Vello Virkhause at the Ultra Music Festival in Miami. Since then, we've kept in touch, and I've always been inspired by the work that he does. I really enjoyed this conversation, as it was a rare opportunity for me to talk about the art of stage lighting design. Stephen gets it. He's been doing it for 25 years, and that's the world I came from when I was younger. Using light as a medium is kind of an arcane art form, and there are very few people that I have the opportunity to talk to that are steeped in the practice. Stephen is a true creative, and his work is at the pinnacle of the stage design industry. This is one of my favorite conversations to date, and I think you'll like it too. This podcast isn't very formal as far as podcasts go. It's not sponsored by anyone. It's paid for by Digital Ambience, the company I founded. It's a personal project. On a side note, we've spent the last few months getting our product line ready for launch. It's been on the agenda for a long time. There's just never been enough free time to properly develop the website and all the other materials necessary to do it right. The premise is simple. We've taken the best examples of the tools, fixtures, and software that we've used and created over the years for one-off installations, and we're making them available to you for use in your own projects. One of my favorite parts of the site is the custom LED configuration tool, which allows you to customize LED strip to your precise needs, demystifying the myriad of chipsets, electrical parameters, and pixel types available. This is something that we've been doing in our own projects for a long time, working with our manufacturing partners in China to get exactly the right product made for the project that we're working on. I've never seen this offered on anyone else's website, so I think it'll be a great resource for the community. Check it out at digitalambience.com/products and drop us a line if you have any questions about your projects. I want to introduce you first because I don't know if everybody, the audience that I speak to normally is very much in the light art and new media art scene. And
Okay.
For people who don't know, you're a stage designer. I mean, is that how you describe yourself?
You know what? It depends on the day and what hat I have to put on. But, when I started doing this in the early 90s, I was a lighting designer. And then that turned into a stage and production designer. And then it turned into kind of a networking, programming operator, stage designer, production designer, scenic designer, um, production manager. I don't know. It just depends on the day. Man of
It's funny.
many hats.
I always make the observation that a successful lighting designer has to be a network engineer first.
Absolutely.
That's like one of the bedrock skills in this industry, no matter
Yeah.
what you're doing at this point.
I think to find success in any industry, you need to be able to evolve and roll with the punches. You can't just stay still. So,
Oh yeah.
Whilst my company name is SJ Lighting, and I've had people say, well, why is it just SJ Lighting? I go, that's just because that's what we called it years and years ago. But we are so far from doing just lighting. I mean, at a minimum, it's lighting and video and control systems and and everything that goes with it. We've done full scenic environments, things similar to like how you've been expressing yourself creatively, like building custom chandeliers and all sorts of art treatments and things like that. So yeah, I mean, you can call me whatever you want.
Yeah, it's always been inspiring to look at your work, man. It's definitely,
Likewise.
I
Appreciate it.
met you through Vello Virkhause, actually, through
That's
the
right.
Ultra festivals, and
Yep.
back in like early 2000s, you guys were working together on the Ultra festival
That's right.
series.
That's right.
Yeah, is that how you started out, or what how did you
I
start out
start
in
I
this
started
industry?
in nightclubs, and actually from a pretty young age, I started in nightclubs back in the mid '80s when I was a young teenager, and
Yeah.
not doing anything related to what I do now. Nothing technical. I was washing glass and you know mopping the floors and doing whatever I could just because I really liked that kind of that niche of the hospitality world, and nightlife, and the excitement and that scene, and that evolved. After going to college and wasting my time studying things that I was never going to use, um,
Right. You got to
I
do it though. You got to
yeah, I
do
made
it.
a hard left
Yeah.
and went into the design side of nightlife. So it was
Yeah.
always nightclubs, and that evolved into the dance music scene and raves, and that moved into Ultra Music Festival, like I think my first Ultra was 99 or 2000, which was my first Ultra was Ultra 2. So I think that was 2000. It's the first time I did Ultra.
And
And
that was Miami, right? That was
that
Ultra
was when it
Miami.
was still on the beach in Miami.
Yeah.
Only about 5,000 people. And the production manager at the time, this guy, Terry McNeil, he called me out of the blue. There was like an article about some shitty nightclub I did in New York. And he emailed me, I think, and I probably had like either an AOL address or it was like ix.netcom.com or whatever terrible email address I had. And he hit me up. He's like, hey, I hear you think you're hot shit. You want to, he was a real smart ass. You want to come down to Miami and, do a show? I was like, hey, yes, if you're buying, I'm flying. And absolutely, I'll come to Miami and do a show. I was already dabbling a little bit of work in Miami at the time anyway. We did a bunch of work for Crowbar and a bunch of the other clubs at that time. So I was like, I'm down to come rock it. Let's do it. And
Miami is such an interesting scene.
I spent 18 years with them. I resigned my position with Ultra in 2017. It was just kind of irreconcilable differences, and 18 years seemed to be long enough to spend.
That's a good run, man. And besides,
18 years.
If you're doing one thing for 18 years, it's like you've done it, man. You mastered that. What's the next step? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Listen, if some things go, I've been with Insomniac for 20. They would just, there was some creative differences. We didn't see things the same way. It's their company. It's not mine. And they didn't think I was going to do it. But I was like, guys, you know what? My mental state of mind is critical to my well-being.
Yeah.
So
man. That is the key, right?
Yeah,
that is it's got to be first.
There was we weren't like cursing at each other. It was just like, don't book me any more plane tickets. Don't ask me for any more services. I wish you the best.
Well, listen, man, that's the best way you could break a relationship off is before it gets to the point where it's poisoned or where there are irreconcilable differences. Just like, you know what? I'm going to try something else now.
Yeah.
So Insomniac, you have been doing EDC for a very long time, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's another
almost
one.
Just as long since so I started doing Ultra in 2000, EDC 2001, and I'm still with them. So this would have been my 19th year.
Yeah. How have those stages evolved? I'm sure they've gotten them just crazy,
well,
much more complex.
So back when I started with them, I was the only stage designer for Insomniac because back then, 20 years ago, production designers and stage designers, if they were picking up big jobs, they weren't in the dance music world. There was no money in dance music. They were trying to pick up rock tours or corporate and industrial events, like large format stuff. Rock and roll was the cat's meow. Everybody needed to have a rock and roll gig, and they thought I was a schmuck.
It was still all rock and roll. Like electronic music was, even in like the early 2000s, there was very little money in EDM.
Right. So just to give you an idea, like EDC back in those days, we would have 7 to 10 stages, and I think my total budget for all of it might have been $200 to $250,000. I spend that on labor on one stage in Vegas now.
Right.
Like the stages I'm responsible for, even the techno stage, I'm spending $500,000 plus. The big circuit grounds is multiple millions of dollars just for circuit grounds. And then you get to the main stage, that's, just in the scenic elements, the spend is huge.
Yeah, I mean that's the element that I'm most interested in. Honestly, it's like where the scenic and the lighting meet. Yep. So it's kind of like the sculptural lighting element, and the stage design. Right. So you're doing that as well, though, right? You're designing the entire layout.
Yes, whatever stages we're responsible for, we design everything.
Yeah.
We don't do the main stage at EDC. We haven't done that in several years. That's a very scenic company. That's what they specialize in. They do, outside of the dance music culture and festivals, they are a scenic design firm. That's their thing. And my office, I would say we've done lots of scenic designs, but that's not the primary. We are production design, stage design, we're lighting designers. So probably a little bit more edgy, a little bit more, techno style environments, and not really that ethereal, softer, theatrical part. And that's just, I mean, you know me a long time now. That's not my personality anyway. My personality is knife
Right.
edge,
Yeah.
cut
Hey
it.
man, it's an aesthetic,
Yeah,
it's an aesthetic that expresses itself through design.
right,
And that's cool. It's funny how on the West Coast you see a lot of like the Coachella, the Lab influence coming
right.
in,
Yep,
and
you sure do.
has been here. It's funny because I used to go to those festivals when I was much younger, and before they were a large production company, and it's kind of hilarious to see how that's taken over the vernacular of design, at least in West Coast festivals. Where it's like, oh
Yes.
my god, everything looks like Lab.
Yeah, it's, I guess as a designer, I mean, we all find places for influence and for just anything to kind of stimulate and push out ideas. And you know, sometimes a designer might take things a little too literally. Lab, really talented group of human beings and good
Yeah,
people, and their
they are good
designs
people.
are always top notch. And yeah, I could see why other designers see that, and all of a sudden, like, you know, the seed's been planted, and they go, oh,
Yeah.
well, miraculously, it looks just like a Lab design. I wonder how that
Well,
happened.
it's an influence, and styles. It's just like clothing or whatever, any
Yep.
style. It fluctuates, and there's different designers who come in and they influence the predominant culture at whatever time, and we all take influence from each other.
Of course
It's
we do.
that's the whole point. It's like you're looking at a design, you're like, damn, that's fucking cool. I
That's
bet I
cool.
could use this in my design.
Well, the
Or like,
trick is, right, to not just totally plagiarize something, but to like
of course,
be
yeah,
influenced and have an idea that you can take a seed and start something else. Right? You
yeah,
go, you know what, I was really impressed with the geometry of how, some intersecting lines and the way they pushed and pulled, some of the extrusions and, whatever else they're working on. And I have an idea to kind of take that little piece and start from that, and I'm going to make it my own. You do something like that, and you take ideas and you develop them, but don't just kind of straight up. There was like an instance where I think it was Dead Mouse got ripped off a couple years ago, and that like sent a ripple through the industry real quick because uh, Joel Zimmerman was not pleased about it, and he was like tweeting, and he was like, "Dude, I spent millions of dollars on design, and you just kind of you
well,
just copied
here's the
it."
thing. Here's the thing. Whoever did that secondary design,
Yeah,
they will never be recognized as a premier designer, because if you're blatantly ripping off somebody else's work, then it's, for me anyway, it would be hard to see how they would be respected in the industry at large. And in
yeah,
the end, man, it's like the jobs that you get, they come to you because somebody sees your work and they're like, wow, that's cool. I've never seen that before. I want that design brain to come up with something for whatever I'm
right,
building.
right.
Yeah, man. And I think that's how you've become successful. And I think that's how
That's how
any
you become
designer.
successful, also, right? I mean, we're designers. I mean, that's what we do. We express ourselves creatively,
Yeah.
and we hope that our clients, our friends, our colleagues, peers, whoever,
Mm.
looks at it, and we can stir some sort of response, good, bad, or otherwise. Hopefully good, but like, I know that, like, you were telling me about a chandelier that you were working on. I'm anticipating that every time people walk past that it's going to create some sort of response. They're not oblivious to it. They're going to see it,
No,
and
man. It's
hopefully it will stimulate something, even if it's subconsciously. Like, just make me feel something. Like,
yeah.
make me feel excited, scare the shit out of me, run me over with a train, or just like, you know, embrace me in your light. Obviously that was really lame, but you understand
No.
what
I
I'm
get
saying.
it. I totally get what you're saying, man. And lighting design is funny because lighting design is such an abstract form of art. You know what I mean? It's not contextual at all. You remember back in the day, I was working with Vello, and I was very much into like the visual, like video art.
Yep.
That is such a contextual art form, but I actually like lighting a lot more because I like how you're really telling a story through by setting vibe and setting, like,
Right.
conveying emotion, and it's all about like the motion of the light and the colors, how they make you feel, and reacting to changes in the music, or
Right.
if you're doing a permanent piece, it's just like, what's the environment you're creating?
Well, I think there's also something to be said for having an understanding of what it takes to put a design together, whilst being a graphic designer is a fantastic trade, and there's a lot of skills involved in that. You're creating artwork on the screen through your software and such that you can display onto a mechanical device. Whereas as a stage designer, lighting designer, production designer, all of those things, scenic elements, you have to draw the pretty picture, and that pretty picture has to be built.
Yeah.
So you can make a cool graphic that you're going to put on screen. I don't have to build that. It's whatever it is, whether it's kinetic or it's static or whatever it may be. It's just you're going to portray that through a pixel map, and you're going to put that on the screen. When we do a design, like if I can't build it, or I've done something that's not possible, or too expensive, or resources are not available, that's on me as a designer to not, that's a deficiency, an area that needs improvement, or an area where I've just straight up failed my client. Right.
Yeah.
So
well, you got to be
there's a level of engineering that needs to come into the, design meets art meets engineering, and need to make all that fit. And if you can't do that, you can't have success.
Were you
I have a degree in history.
That's awesome.
You know what? I'm a very mathematical brain thinker, pragmatic, logical, A to B, linear kind of human being, obsessive, compulsive,
clearly
neurotic.
You are an engineer, even if you didn't go to school for it, man. I didn't go to school for engineering either,
right.
But I'm definitely an engineer. And it's like, to do lighting design, you're absolutely right. It's like the name of the game is designing things that are physically possible.
I have a lot of engineering experience, and I like to, use the cliche. I'm smart enough to be dangerous, but not enough to where I could ever take an engineering job. But I'm not going to give you a drawing that an engineer is going to look at and go, "Are you out of your mind? This is not possible." So I'm going to give them drawings and go, "Here's how we would do it," and they're going to go, "Yes," or maybe we make some modifications, but not like you're so obtuse from where it should be that it just doesn't work. So familiar with engineering, and that's only because I've got nearly 30 years under my belt of doing this, and so you just every time you do a job, even today, like even on calls today for design work that we're doing, new understandings and perspectives. You're always kind of growing and adding to your toolbox of what's available to express yourself creatively, and also being efficient. Right, the engineering creates efficiencies also. So you can probably wire things, a multitude of ways, but there's really one most efficient way, and then 100 ways that are just a fucking mess.
Yeah, of course. And experience informs how you create your designs.
It helps for sure.
So does the technology, though. It's funny how like the technology creates opportunities for the designer, and then the designer creates like mandates for the technology developer, right? So it's like this ever evolving thing where one leads into the next.
But how often do you as a designer allow technology to steer, or does it the idea first and then technology supports?
That's a good question. And honestly, I think it's for us, it's probably half and half. Like the design inevitably steers the ship, right? We get a mandate, and it's like somebody comes to us and they're like, we're envisioning a waterfall in our lobby. They're like, how can we express that? And then it's like you turn to your toolbox and you say, what tools do I have? And how would I paint a waterfall
first?
Yeah, of course.
Right. So it's always the design idea and aesthetic and philosophy first, and then you back in the technology to support it.
Correct. Yeah. Right. And I think that's
that's not 50-50. That's design followed by technology.
Okay. Yes, I agree with that.
Right.
I agree with that 100%. You do see a lot of like engineering type artists who do it the other way around, and you can tell in their work. It's like when movies are just flashbang movies and they're just doing a special effect to do a special effect, versus when a movie has something to say, and they're using the special effects to complement that message.
Right. To me, that feels forced.
Yeah. Right? Oh, absolutely.
It's like your idea, like you forced an idea in. Hold on, let me turn my computer battery to power mode,
Uh-oh.
I know. I got that out. It was getting warm. I was like, wait a minute. Am I in high performance mode? Yep, I am. Dial that back. Um, those ideas always to me feel forced. Like you always want to support the idea, support the concept, not the other way around. Like, as a lighting designer, you go, oh, wow, there's this new light out. I need to figure out how to use it. Whilst,
Yeah.
yes, but no. What you want to
Right.
do is you want to still have kind of like the big moves, the big sweeps, the big look of what you're trying to do. And then if that fixture is available and it supports that, then you could put it in there. But you're never going, the new, XYZ light. Yeah, I need to use that. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do, but I need to use it. I don't know if maybe that's the, kind of the right procedure.
Well, you can tell. You can tell when people create their designs based on the flashbang of a certain technology. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like LED walls were a perfect example of that. Certain fixtures that you see come out, you're like, why are these things all over the stage?
Right.
Yes, they're cool, but it's missing something. It's missing other elements, diversity, or that message, that like emotional message that's conveyed through efficient and correct use of tools.
Right.
Yeah. So when you do a stage, are you working off of the concept? Do you receive the concept from a client? Does the client just come up to you typically and say, Steven, we want a stage? And you're just like, okay, I'm going to figure out what the theme of this is, or
right.
Because for us, generally,
there is no one right answer to this. I've had every scenario. I prefer some sort of direction. At a minimum, I need to know the musical genre, if there's writers that need to be supported, and do you want something scenic or do you want something production based? Because scenic tends to be exponentially more expensive. Also, I need to know what the dollar is that we're spending, because I could quickly figure out, just based on the size and scope of your show, of what what you want your stage real estate to occupy, where you need to be dollar wise, and anywhere from a roof, scaffold, scenic, self climber, whatever it needs to be, I can tell you exactly where the dollar is. So if your dollar doesn't match what you want, if you're coming in ordering, lobster and champagne, but you got enough money for a 2 cheeseburger meal, we have to have that conversation right away.
Right. And it's funny because that's oftentimes, that's the hardest thing to tease out of a client. And that is one of the first design criteria that you need to start to create a design, right? Is like,
right.
What is the range we're working in here? Because that informs everything. The technology, the scope, the vision, everything.
Right. I think not rookie designers, like rookie promoters and producers, they're always hesitant to give the number just because they don't know. And maybe they think like if they say the number, then all of a sudden they're locked in. But you really do need to commit to something, because, I could put in, just from a commodity standpoint, I could put in 100 lights at $200 a piece, 20 grand, or I could put in 500 lights at $200 a piece, right? 100 grand.
Yeah. Right.
Are we at 20 grand or are we at 100 grand? Tell me which one it is. And then we're going to figure out what's going on.
Then you can do a stage plot.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I like getting a direction of some kind before we start as well. But it's nice, and we're getting more and more opportunity to do more of the creative end. So it's becoming more of a partnership, and it's so nice,
Right.
Yeah, man. It's interesting when it comes to permanent installations too, because they're so thematic. I was looking at your nightclub designs, and there's a lot of sculptural elements in there. I'm wondering, do you design those, or do you work with the architects?
I work, when you do permanent installations, you're never alone. So in the production world, we might be left to our own devices. Like, hey, here's your land, here's the real estate on the festival site, and here's how much money we have to spend. And they give you those two pieces of the puzzle, and then if you're fortunate enough to have a client that has faith in your abilities, they let you spread your wings and deliver a system. You document it, you support it, you build it. But when you do permanent installation, you are just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Even if you're doing all the, on that side, it's just called AV. Whether it's lighting, video, audio, whatever it is, it's all part of the AV package. So if
Yeah.
you're part of the AV package for a nightclub, you're like 3 tiers down. You have the owner, you have the landlord, you have the owner, you have the interior designer, then you have the architect, then you have all of the sub consultants under there. Lighting designer, audio consultants, furniture, kitchen designer, electrical engineer, structural engineer, MEP, which stands for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and everything in between. And everybody's got an opinion. So then the architect is the coordinating entity that guides all the consultants. So we're given background drawings that are provided, interior designer submits to the architect. Then you have background, let's say AutoCAD documents. Then the AutoCAD drawings, the base files, are given to all the sub-consultants for us to design on, not just AV. So like we'll do lighting, video, special effects, things like that. But the HVAC guys who are designing the air conditioning is laid out. And then the architect has to take that and overlay them and make sure there's no conflict. And it's an overwhelming, complicated procedure that you need to go through. And so once you have, an understanding of how that works, I actually really enjoy it because I like procedures in general. Like I just, it's just kind of like the way I work mentally. So going through all of that makes sense to me.
But when you're doing a stage in a field, it's a lot more free form because there's nothing to get in the way.
And to be honest, there's no liability there. I mean, minimum. Like, let's say, for instance, you design a show in a field, and you have your original design. We're just going to use easy numbers. You have 100 lights. Doesn't matter where they are. It's kind of irrelevant. You have 100 lights, and now the owner goes, or the promoter goes, I want to add a little piece of stage right here, and maybe put like another dozen fixtures on that. Can you do that? And you go, yeah, I think our staging company has some deck. Bring the deck over. And the lighting company, you know what? We have they brought like a whole truck full of stuff. I don't know why they brought extras, but they brought them. Yeah, here's 24 more lights. You drop some cable down, you plug it in. You go into a permanent installation, and after your 100% construction drawings are done and walls are getting closed up, you go, hey, you know what? I'd actually like to add 12 lights over there.
Yeah.
If it's possible, the impact financially will be tremendous.
Right.
Especially if you're in Las Vegas.
The owners still do it. They're like halfway through construction, they're like, let's change it up.
We did a club. Right, here's a good example of just a minor change and what it costs. We did a club at the Venetian. I can't remember how many years ago it was. 6 or 7 years ago. It was called the Box. But it wasn't the Box. They called it something else because they couldn't call it the Box. But the Box is a pretty well-known, kind of very voyeuristic nightclub based in London and New York. And they opened up one at the Venetian. We had an issue. We had an LED fixture, like a strip that was lighting it was a graze for some wall feature. And the manufacturer's specifications said that it wasn't voltage switching, that it was 120 volts instead of 208 or something like that. The short story is we had to change one circuit from 120 to 208 or vice versa. I got charged $2,500 for that.
Oh, sure, man.
On a bill back. They literally was switching wires and replacing a breaker and a receptacle. $2,500.
Right. Well, that's a union labor, man. That's a union electrician.
Welcome to installations. Where do you think these big jobs are happening?
I know.
Like, did you see?
We're dealing with that right now, actually, in the installation we're working on. And it's like, don't touch anything. This is hands off.
Right.
No, don't touch it.
Did you see that Resort World in Las Vegas, which is a new property that's opening up, owned by Genting Group out of Malaysia, I believe. They just put up the biggest LED wall on the strip, like 100,000 square feet of LED surface on their building.
Fucking nuts.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yes, I was looking at video of. I'm actually going to Vegas tomorrow for some meetings, and I'm going to go take a look at that at night because I want to see it.
Yeah, better bring your sunglasses.
Yeah, no kidding.
Put on some sunblock. Yeah,
they'll blow my hair away.
Oh man, Jesus! Yeah. I gotta get a haircut. It's freaking quarantine, man.
I'm not empathetic. Sorry, no understanding. No, I don't get it.
Quarantine problems.
Yeah, I hear you. My son has like a bouffant. His
Yeah,
hair
yeah.
goes around, and my wife and daughter. It's ladies are a little more manageable. When a man's hair gets out of control, literally, my son's
Oh,
head
it's just
looks like a
bam.
mop on his head. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I've been having people just shave around the sides and just like
Right.
shave all around the sides. The tops just growing longer and longer. It's going to become a problem at some point.
My style is I have my own clippers. I don't go to the barber. It's been many a year since, and so it's it when it gets a little whatever pops out, just gets trimmed off.
Hey man, that's simple.
At
It's
least
like
there's
one
no
less
major
thing you got to think about.
scars. My head is relatively symmetrical. There's nothing really weird. I haven't been hit real hard to where it's made a dent in my head. So
Yeah,
I'm
trust,
good.
man. Trust will leave a dent.
Yeah, no, I've seen some guys are like, thank God you're not bald, because I mean the whole thing, it looks like a fucked up eggplant that's been sitting on the ground too long.
Yeah, it's true, man. It's true. So is that your next thing? Are you going down to Vegas and doing an install down there?
We have a couple jobs going on in Vegas right now. So we're working on that. We have a big job in Puerto Rico that is I'm going to program, and a job in Philly. So right now there's some travel coming up again, which is good and bad. Good because we need to work. Bad because I don't really want to get on an airplane and sit with people, but I'm going to
Yeah,
do it. I'm going to put my
yeah,
mask on, my hazmat suit, and
yep,
my
yep,
sanitizer, and deal with
yeah,
it.
yeah. Now, do you program all of those? Do you do all your own programming, or do you have like who's in SJ Lighting? Is it like a team of you and some engineers and some artists and like whatever?
It's me and my wife own the company, and so
Yeah.
I do all things design and directly billing related to business items like
Mm-hmm.
vendors and staffing and things like that. And then my wife handles all things human resources.
Mm-hmm.
So the employees, manages their time off, and anything else that's related to them, deals with accountants, attorneys, and insurance brokers, rent, you know, business bills. And then I have 3 full-time employees.
That's cool. What
Right.
kind of roles do they play?
So I have one of our guys he's fairly specific to event design. So
Mm.
he's got Vectorworks. I've got a Vectorworks license on his stuff. Proficient at MA programming, WYSIWYG, and all things special event production related.
And those are kind of your weapons of choice, right? You've got
For that world.
Yeah, I saw your renderings. They looked like WYSIWYG.
That's actually Cinema 4D.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, that's all
Nice.
cinema.
That's great, man. Can't you go back and forth
You can
between them?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Between WYSIWYG and cinema? I don't know if you could do WYSIWYG and cinema. No, we use a plugin for cinema called Stage, which actually has all the lighting fixtures in it with all the IES and photometric data, which is really cool. So they spent a lot of time, while you can't really program in cinema, which is unfortunate, the photometric and volumetric effects that you can get out of cinema as opposed to WYSIWYG. Like WYSIWYG to me is kind of an advanced cartoon.
Right.
Whereas Cinema 4D, people look at the cinema renders and they go, "When was that show?" I go, "It wasn't. It's not for a month."
Right.
They go, "Really?" And then they look again. They go, "No shit." But we also have plugins. Like I've got plugins of people who can dance, who can move, like all sorts of animated effects generators that we can add to these things, because we do video renders and stills.
But you can't control the fixtures with it. That's the only thing with the lighting console.
Not DMX.
Yeah.
Not in cinema. So when the pandemic hit, actually, I shifted my whole office into grasping Unreal Engine. So now, I've maxed out the Unreal Engine DMX plugin. There's some guys that have their own plugin that they've made that works a little bit better. But on Unreal, I can do 8 ArtNet universes maxed out, and I've had 3 NDI inputs, and where you can manipulate and move around the show file. Would I ever take that out as my previs? Not the proprietary UE stuff. That it's a gaming engine. It's cool. I think.
What do you use it for? What do you use Unreal for?
I like using Unreal because now I can take the environments that we built, because all of our stuff is modeled and in 3D, and we can compile it either into a game platform so that I can give it to you on your desktop and you can navigate through the whole space, or I can put it into like an Oculus, and you can navigate through, with your remote and walk through it. So I
So
could,
that's how we sold one of our last
yeah,
projects, is with an Unreal mock-up of the installation. And we are just like, look, man, just put on this headset, walk around. This is what we want to build. And he was like, oh yeah, let's do it. So
right.
it's good,
Yeah, it's
and
great.
it's
It's a great way for a client to really understand because, as a designer, we have construction drawings which have to be developed because you need to build the thing, right? So that goes to the contractors, to the boots on the ground, the people in the field who are actually going to be putting this thing together, right? Then you have perspective, kind of hidden line, shaded views, right? To actually show what the model looks like. Then you have renders, which are skinned and materialed, photometric, volumetric, all of those things. And then you have true 3D, which is, we can do that either with WYSIWYG, but you're not going to give somebody a WYSIWYG file and move a camera around.
No, no.
The only really tool that's available now, if you want to use this stuff, is Unreal, especially because it's a free, it's free most of the time.
It's a free engine.
It's a free engine until you start putting it. The thing is with Unreal, anything you do in Unreal is theirs. They're not
really?
in the business of they're not in the business of taking it from you. But if you're using their free engine, it's theirs.
I didn't know that.
So intellectual property,
sense.
You're right. If you're writing plugins and other things like that for Unreal and you're using it Unreal, you might want to talk to your lawyer.
Yeah, that's a really good point, man. I think gaming engines are definitely the future of servers. Like the server world, for us, we're using a 3D engine to do volumetric pixel mapping.
Right.
So to be able to run 3D effects through like 3-dimensional arrangements of LEDs.
Right.
And that's working out great, man. It's cool because there's not a whole lot of tools that will let you do that.
Right. And how's the frame rate?
The frame rate's great. We get up 50, 60 frames per second.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing.
Through ArtNet, pushing it over ArtNet.
Right. Okay. But you're sending it unicast, right? You're not just blasting the shit out of a network.
No. It's unicast.
It's controlled, specific lines.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the other thing with Unreal. Is Unreal right now, if you use their plugin, is only broadcast. So that's a problem also, because it's just fucking data just smashing into the wall.
Listen, man, I got to show you the software that we use because we're working directly with the developers, and it's a 3D environment. You can bring in your models from whatever software you're using to generate them, and then you can do your volumetric pixel mapping within it, and you can do hundreds of thousands of pixels. It's amazing.
Let's dig in.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. It's do you do the server programming on your end, or do you have other groups come in to do?
It depends on what server. We've been using Hippo a lot, so we have a pretty good grasp for Hippo. If I need to go outside of that and I need to bring somebody else in, we do that. Yeah. Obviously, we own a bunch of licenses of Resolume, but that's just DJ software. There's not much to that. I mean,
well, you could do a lot with Resolume. You can do a lot with Hippo.
Of course.
I think like the what the fuck is it called now? It's not D3. I can never remember this. It's Delicate or Disguise.
Disguise. Yeah.
They get so mad at me when I call it D3. They're like, that's not what we're called. Their server.
Yeah, you are. You'll always be D3, pal.
Yeah. Their server is amazing. It does not do individual pixels. So for us, right, where we're dealing with mostly LED pixels, sometimes we're dealing with video and projection, but almost always we're sending our output over a network card. It's like we had to come up with our own tool. Like when we were trying to figure out, like, all right, how are we going to do these volumetric installations? It was like, well, D3 is great. It's a great engine, but they're too big to have me as an individual user come up to them and be like, hey, this feature,
you got to change this.
Yeah, it's like, no, they're making their millions doing other things, which is great. So that's why the software that we're using is.
Well, I'd love to check it out. Right now, for our LED installations, we've been using ELM, which is the NTEC LED mapper. And I love it, actually.
Doesn't do 3D very well.
It doesn't do 3D very well. However, what it does do very well is it does organic shapes. So you're not locked into a grid of XYZ coordinates. I can actually bring in a background of a design and I could pull the pixels and stretch them over that design
Yeah.
100% accurate as to where they need to go. And then what you can do is you can have multiple layouts that you can basically run as their own fixture, and I could run them on top of each other. So I could do
Interesting.
one orthographic ortho, orthographic layout. I could
But
do a parallel layout. I can do a perspective layout and stretch it, and then I could lay them all on top of each other. So I can cheat the 3D. So whilst
yeah.
it's not 3D where I'm dropping 3D objects,
Yeah.
um, it's pretty advanced as far as being able to have the latitude to stretch your map around and
So
manipulate it.
I know the developers of Elm, and I know
Matthew,
I've used it a couple times, but I'm not I came into things through Madrix. So I
right?
approach things through that lens. And I've worked with the Madrix developers extensively to try and
I
solve
love
that
the
very
Matrix
problem.
guys. Those are my
Yeah, me too,
boys.
man.
I love them. They're some of the
Yeah.
nicest human beings I know in the industry. And
Yeah.
for a while, we were probably one of the biggest users of Matrix.
Yeah.
And but when we come into these complex pixel layouts, I was feeling like the mapping was really getting kind of strangled out by
It
by the map,
absolutely.
by the map constraints of Matrix.
So here's how we solved that problem for ourselves, right? We started doing the pixel layout in Rhino 3D, and
Okay,
then we export those as basically spreadsheet files, right?
right.
CSV files,
Yep.
and then we import that into Madrix, and that gives you the ability to specify pixel location based on
So
a
is that what you're
CSV file.
using right now? Is Matrix?
No, we're using Smode. Smode is
I've
it's
heard
a
of them. Yeah.
yeah. So we use Smode. I also use Madrix for
Right.
more simple pixel layouts, but
Right.
Smode is the heavy hitter. It is the for us, it is the way forward into a truly 3D environment.
Where are those
But
developers based?
in France,
Okay.
they're in
Right.
Paris,
Right.
but we fly them out to do a lot of our advanced programming. So when
Right.
we do an advanced design, you know, they've got a guy. He's the traveling guy. We just fly him over,
Right.
man.
Yeah.
Vincent, he's
Great.
great.
Worth every penny.
Absolutely.
You got a couple hundred thousand pixels. You really want to run into a wall multiple times, or bring the guy in who really knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah, no
Have
matter
fun.
what,
Go
man.
crazy.
He's also just a hilarious guy to be around. He carries around a World War I pocket watch, right? And he refuses to use a smartphone. So he's got like the flip phone, and it's something to do with privacy and relying,
I was going to
whatever
say
it is.
he's an off the grid guy.
He's an off the grid guy, but he's a media server programmer. It's
Right.
like, bro,
Who doesn't want to be on the grid?
I know.
Have you watched that show on Netflix called Money Heist?
No.
It's a Spanish show, so it's all subtitled in English. So it's all
Yeah.
in Spanish, and so it's about this group of people who go in and they basically rob like the national treasury. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy, and how they basically swing the public opinion over to loving them. But
Yeah.
what they're doing when they communicate is they're taking like old school flip phones and they're like putting them together so that there's no GPS tracking, and there's no
Yeah. Yeah.
text messaging on these things. It's literally like a Motorola StarTAC from like 1994.
Hey man, if you're a criminal, this is like the hardest era to be a criminal. And it's like, how the hell
You
do you
can't leave
be
your
an on?
house. I mean,
No,
between everybody's Nest camera and
I
security
know.
cameras and
The
stoplight
fucking
camera.
doorbell things,
Yeah, you.
Amazon's doorbell things.
What do you think? Nobody has access to this thing right here.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they do, man.
This thing
That's
right
like
here.
freaking
They
what's
know
his
we're
name?
talking. They know.
Yeah, of
Black Mirror,
course.
baby.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. It's a wired world. So one of the things we're working on now is kind of crazy. Is it's an Internet of Things operating system, right? It's
Okay.
a lot of the work that we do is just like control data and like managing control systems. So we're working with this open source software that allows you to like create like complex behaviors between different IoT devices. And it's fucking crazy, man, because like a building is basically like this weird living organism with all these like tentacles. You've got sensors all over the
Yeah.
place. You've got smart lights and door locks and cameras, and the everything is networked. And it's
Yeah,
like
sure is.
you need some software, some piece of software to like coordinate those behaviors, just like a lighting system.
Yeah, of course.
But it's just like, you got doorknobs and fucking overhead light dimmers and whatever.
Crestron on steroids.
Basically, yeah, man. Yeah. Basically. Crestron is so locked down, though.
Yeah, you need to be a certified Crestron programmer, and it's like, so I think, like, I don't know anybody. I don't put those in anymore. So they're a pain in the ass.
I've never used Crestron personally. I've definitely worked on a number of projects that use Crestron, and I've definitely taken control data from Crestron.
Right.
It's like if you're going into a residential or a high-end commercial installation, being able to take cues or tap into the occupancy sensors from a Crestron system is great.
Right.
Like this thing that we're doing in the British Virgin Islands, we've got access to all their occupancy sensors. So when people walk into a room, we know it affects the looks that we're building.
Right.
It's great. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's another thing Smode is great with, man, is taking control data from other sources. You can pull data from anywhere. Right. Anywhere, whether it's like an API, like a website or something, like Twitter feeds or whatever.
Is that just a license you buy online from these guys?
Yeah, it is. It's a license. They're starting to sell hardware now too. They're encouraging, like we're a reseller now, just because it makes sense. And they're like, you got to start pushing our hardware. And I'm like, I'll push your super expensive servers if it makes sense for the project.
Right.
But it's very flexible, which is nice.
Right. Cool. Yeah, we should spend a little time. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, give you a demo, man. It's cool stuff.
Where are you living now?
I'm in Berkeley. In Berkeley, California.
Cool.
Yeah. After I quit touring, I moved here and I just never left. Right. Like, oh man, it's nice. Fly wherever you need.
And then you work out of the house, or you keep an office, or?
No, we got an office.
Right.
We got a little studio. It's like an office / art gallery, and there's a couple of different groups that we're all we're all in the same industry, kind of. Like there's an electrical engineering firm that's here. There's a content design firm that's here, and there's digital ambience, which is kind of like lighting installations. But we all work on.
My screen just went dim, so let me go. I'm gonna just relocate and go into the house to where I can plug back into my power supply.
Yeah, no sweat. Man, I feel like we're getting a tour of your house right now. It's great. It's a nice backyard.
Thank you. Yeah, my wife put a lot of time into getting that thing in shape the way she wanted it. Okay, now I'm on the couch.
Ah, there you go, man. It's the proper place. The proper place for an interview.
My location.
Yeah. So is there any news on when you guys are doing festivals again? No one knows, huh?
Well,
it's kind of like
nobody knows. I mean, obviously, there's some shows that are now going on in Europe again.
Mm-hmm.
But as U.S. citizens, that's not for us.
I know, man.
We can't go.
That's so fucked.
Everything changes. It seems like things are changing by the minute. Insomniac hasn't said one way or the other whether or not they're going to move forward in October, and that's got a lot to do with right now there's this things are getting rolled back to phase 1. I mean, you live in California, you know what it's like. We have the same governor, interesting individual. So he's shutting things down except for the county where his wine, where his wine reserve is. But everything else is shut down.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah, he's got a winery in Napa. That hasn't been shut down. But no politics. Sorry. But California's tough right now. EDC being in Las Vegas, they need the Nevada governor on board. You can't do a large format show right now just because you think it's a great idea and because you want to. Like if the government is not down and the governor of your state basically doesn't say cool, it's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah, well, all of
Yeah.
those festivals are so. It seems like they're so political to begin with. It's like you need to be greasing palms, man. It's like
Right.
how do you throw freaking ultra? It's like tell me that has nothing to do with the
Well,
city
that
of
whole
Miami's
scenario down there, what went down with them getting tossed out of Bayfront Park and then getting
right.
back in and kicking another event out of where they went in the Keys, like that is so fucking corrupt. It's insane.
It
And
really
like I
is, man.
watched, their hearing because it was a public hearing, and it was
Hmm.
televised. I mean,
Yeah,
that was the greasiest, slimiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
those politicians, I'm sorry, people were getting paid.
Oh yeah.
You don't
It's funny
talk
because
like that. You don't talk
it's so
like that.
transparent. It's so
Yeah. I
blatant.
was like, oh my god, this is amazing. How is the governor not coming down and raining hellfire on them right now for this nonsense? But whatever, not my problem. I'm not in politics. I'm in design.
Who is the guy who what the hell was the guy's name who was kind of like the founder of Winter Music Conference? Do you remember him? Wasn't Bruce. Bruce was the marketing guy for
You're talking about Bruce
WMC.
Braxton?
Yeah.
No, Bruce Braxton. He was actually part of Ultra. What was the guy's name? It just slipped my mind. Now I'm gonna have to Google it.
Right. There's like all these characters. I remember them from at
You're
least
talking the founder
back,
of Conference or the original founder of Ultra,
original founder of Ultra.
Alex Ohms.
Alex Ohms. Yeah, that's right,
He
man.
died.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he died. They booted him out, and then there was a lawsuit and a legal
I
battle.
remember. I
A legal
remember
battle
that.
for years, and he actually
Yeah.
died the night before his trial started.
Well, that's fucking suspicious. That's crazy. Wow. Yeah, man, those are names I haven't heard in like
Yeah.
10 years,
Yeah, he
10,
was my boy.
15 years.
He was a good guy. It was unfortunate.
Yeah. When did that happen? Was that back in like,
That had to be 6 or 7 years ago,
okay, I thought it was like 2010 or I remember hearing about
maybe.
that. Yeah.
When did Alex Ohms die? Let's see.
What a
January
name.
12th, 2015.
Wow. Yeah. That's more recent than I thought. I thought it was like back in 2010,
Well,
2012.
He was out already for a couple years, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, he perished on that day.
Yeah. Yeah, that is sad.
Yeah.
Well, so no festivals this year. Burning Man's canceled, obviously. I think LDI, that's like my other Burning Man. That's like my
LDI,
professional
right.
Burning Man. LDI is probably virtual. We've been doing all these like virtual talks and like virtual conferences and stuff.
Yeah,
I've
I've done a few of these. I mean, I think with you, this is probably my fourth or fifth, video podcast, just kind of shooting the shit and seeing what's going on. This one's a little bit more refreshing because it's a little bit more loose and lighthearted and nothing like, it's not like an attack of questions. So I've enjoyed this.
Good, man. I'm glad. Yeah, this is how we try and do it. I like these conversations. I'm doing this for me,
right?
Me and the whoever I'm talking to. So
right. So what are you doing?
Man.
So you're publishing the podcast, and people come in and listen to it, and they can just download it whenever they want, or you just put it out once.
No. It's on iTunes. It's like you can subscribe to the podcast, and people can download it, and like just however people get podcasts. It's like SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, some other ones. Cool. I got a friend who's doing all the logistics of it and everything.
So do you listen to a lot of other podcasts yourself?
I do, man. I love podcasts. I really do. I feel like podcasting is one of the only forms of a long form conversation that people are having today. It's like reading articles. It's just kind of like you breeze through them, and the news. It's like forget the news, man. No one talks for more than like 5 minutes, and nothing substantive. So if you're interested in a topic, the only place where people are actually conversing about these things are in podcasts, which is nice. To just like listen to it on my drives, listen to it when I travel,
Right.
Yeah.
All that talking probably helps you go to sleep too. Put it on when you when you can't fall asleep, and
yeah. I don't do that. I'm not actually like, I can't sleep if there's anything contextual happening. I'm one of those guys who has to listen to like white noise. Right. I like put on a white noise generator, a fan, and I
have one of those apps on my phone. and
Yeah.
partly because I have pretty bad tinnitus, whatever, depends who you
Do
ask how you
you?
pronounce it. Yeah, I mean, I've spent a
Uh,
lifetime of working in high decibel environments, so the
yeah.
ringing in my ears is constant. I'm used to it.
Uh,
It's like
yeah.
it's a little bit depressing, but at
Yeah.
night when it's super quiet is when it's at its peak. So
Yeah.
I usually keep the television on. Just background noise for me is really
Yeah.
helpful. And
Man, you
if
should talk to a doctor about they're doing stuff with stem cells with vision. And I think that they're doing it with hearing as well. Should talk to somebody about that, because I know that
interesting with stem cells,
it's yeah, dude, it's starting to happen. Like they're starting to be like learn how to
I've got
regrow
somebody to talk
nerves.
to about that. Actually, I'm going to text him when
Yeah.
we get off the phone.
Yeah, just be like, hey, what's the current science? Because it's changing so fast, man. It's
Right.
fucking crazy. It's bonkers.
So what else is happening? Like, what are you mountain biking? You hiking? Like, you getting out of you getting out? Doing shit?
Yeah, dude, I'm doing a lot of climbing. I've been doing a lot of climbing, and I've been especially during the lockdown, I've been using that time to just focus on being just doing things outdoors, getting healthy, and it's been
Right. So you're
nice.
not climbing at an indoor shop. You're going.
No, no,
Are
no.
are there good spots by you?
Yeah, there are, and then down in like up in Tahoe, the Tahoe area.
Right.
There's definitely places around. They're not right around here, but they're pretty close. And I've got a big friend group that's also into climbing. I
Like
think
just
it's
straight
important,
climbing,
man.
or are you bouldering also?
Just straight. I mean, bouldering too, but I personally am much more into rope climbing. I think that
Right.
bouldering is a lot more dangerous because you're not attached. So I've definitely seen a lot of people. Climbing is higher, but you're on a rope.
What's the
And it's
guy's
like,
name that they did the movie on? Who did the free climb?
oh, fuck, what's his name? It's like Alex something something.
Did you watch that movie?
I did, man. He's
Intense.
nuts. Yeah,
He's
he's
crazy.
crazy. He is crazy. They actually did a brain scan on him, and it turns out that his response to like fear, his fear responses are muted somehow. Like his
Of course they
brain
are.
works differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could have
It's
either
crazy.
been who he is now, like this amazing rock climber with no fear, or a fucking sociopathic like mass murderer, because he just doesn't.
If you watch
just don't fucking care.
that movie, man, he kind of seems a little autistic.
Yeah.
Like a little bit, it's
Absolutely. The social skills are not there because that's not how his brain works.
No,
Not
man.
interested
But
in any of that.
I know a lot of people who are like that, man, who are like savants. You just have, it's like the engineering mindset.
Yep.
How many engineers have you dealt with, like really skilled programmers or engineers who are just like, all right, I have to like put on my, like, I have to speak this other language with you.
Yep.
It's not like normal English, normal like
And they're way too
interaction.
smart to even have we're relatively intelligent human beings. You talk to some of these guys and they talk to us like we're fucking idiots. And they don't take no for an answer on like, you're absolutely wrong and they're absolutely right. I've spoken like top level guys who have written like the back end of Yahoo, right? Like geniuses. And then, but there's no.
It's a skill. It's a skill to learn how to work with them too, and you need those guys. You need
do.
Them. Like,
you just got to keep them away from your clients.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, you do.
You got to keep them away from your clients.
I've made that mistake.
Sorry about that.
Dogfight.
Anytime anybody comes near the house.
Oh yeah. Well, that's good. You got an alarm.
My wife had to go pick up a car. Needed freon. Of course, on days that it's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah. Man, well, I think we should probably wrap it pretty soon.
I think the dogs were a good indicator.
Yeah, I think that was the cue.
That's enough.
That was the cue.
It's enough, Dad.
Yeah, dude. Man, I can't wait to see you in person, man. Next time we're hanging out, we should get a drink.
I would love to.
If things are less locked down, let's go hang out. Let's get a drink, man.
Yeah, I would love to. And I'll probably be up NorCal at some point in time, sooner than later. So
I'd love to show you the spot. Let's hang out.
Yeah, and I want to see that software. So let's set up a time. Tell me when your guy is going to be in from Paris. Maybe I'll fly up and come see you guys.
He's going to be in all during August. All of August, he'll be in.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the closest airport to you?
Oakland.
No, like is there a small one?
Yeah, Oakland Airport is a.
Or
they have
Reed
a small,
Hillview, or.
Yeah, there's like a little like section of Oakland that that do private planes, so
Perfect.
you can get like book a little jet in and.
No, I have a little Piper. I'll just jump in.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is awesome.
Yeah, I'll be there in 2 hours.
Oh my God, Steven, that's great.
Yeah. I'll come up
Cool,
see you.
man. Dude, I'm so glad we got to talk.
Yeah,
This
it's
has been
good
great.
to see you.
Yeah,
You look
yeah.
the same.
Yeah, so do you, man.
Yeah, except I'm not. I'm fatter and older.
Whatever, it's just, it happens, dude.
All
We all
good,
get
brother.
older.
Thanks for
All right,
having
man.
me.
Of course. I'll let you know when we post.
Okay, can't wait.
All right, brother.
Later,
Take it
Rob.
easy.